Some Democrats are actually doing a good job right now, reaching people, communicating, speaking to what Americans are actually concerned about. And naturally, the Democratic establishment is fucking terrified because that might mean winning. And it seems as though that's something that we're not very interested in ever doing ever. I want to show you 3 cases. First off, we've got Zohran Mamdani, if you've ever heard of him. He went on Fox News to communicate with people who otherwise really only see him through the eyes of like Rupert Murdoch headlines that are trying to get everybody spooked out about the Muslim socialist. Let's see how Zohran did on Fox.
When I've spoken to Trump voters right here in New York City, Hillside Avenue in Queens, Fordham Road in the Bronx, they've told me it was cost of living that drove them to vote for Donald Trump. They've told me it was a promise of a lower actual, whether it be cheaper groceries, whether it be childcare, whether it be rent.
Right.
And what we're seeing time and time again is we're more focused on the question of billionaires and the most profitable corporations than we are on people who can't even afford to make ends meet in this city.
Well, we know affordability is an issue, and I think that all politicians are getting to an understanding of that, and I think that you've done a lot, actually, to bring people's attention to that issue.
Yeah, so now you've got Zohran Mamdani, the guy that is supposed to be the final nail in the coffin for the left having gone too far, going on Fox News and being met with a, I really got to hand it to you. And if that doesn't send a message to Democrats about what they ought to be talking about, I don't know what the fuck will. We're going to get more into the Zohran Fox News interview because there's some other really interesting stuff. But I want to show you another case. There's a guy named Plattner who's like a gruff oysterman from Maine. He's just oozing with lefty testosterone. Here's a video of him doing his whole spiel. Let's see how he's cooking.
Right now in American history, it feels like we have no choice. We are hanging on by a thread.
This is great. I'm going to play the whole thing, but tell me this guy should not be a WWE announcer.
And we either organize and build power and fight, or we lose. And we can't lose. It is not an option. And once we have fought back fascism, once we have protected our democracy, once we have protected our rights and our freedoms, it needs to be a different kind of freedom. Not just a romantic freedom, not a freedom of talking about rights we must defend, but a material freedom. The freedom to have time and energy to live a life of dignity and joy. The freedom to be able to put your energy back into your neighbors and your community, not just scraping by so you can afford a roof over your head. That's not freedom. Struggling, existing, not being able to follow your dreams, that is not freedom. Freedom is having the time and the money to raise a family, to spend time in your community, to create things, to build things, to take risks, to start businesses, to fall in love. That is freedom.
It's like, God damn, dude, could bring a tear to my eye. You think that dudes like that, you meet guys like that who are so tough, who seem like they could kick your ass, but they're gentle giants who are actually going to hand you a little flower instead. You think that those guys wouldn't be lefties. But unfortunately, the degree to which this guy is not corporatist, APAC shill type has made a lot of Democrats upset. The DSCC, led by Kirsten Gillibrand, Mark Kelly, Adam Schiff, and Lisa Blunt Rochester, has formed a joint fundraising committee with Janet Mills. Now, if you're wondering who Janet Mills is going to be running against Plattner for this Maine Senate seat. Let's take a look at her charisma.
Folks, do you want Democrats to take back the Senate? Well, I'm Governor Janet Mills, and I'm running to flip Maine's Senate seat blue. Susan Collins has sold out Maine and bowed down to special interests and to Donald Trump. But that ends now. So chip in $5 today and let's win this together.
So Janet Mills is a trillion years old, and I don't like to do the whole this person's old and therefore they're bad at politics thing because I think that it's unfair. But there's a fucking limit. There's a point you reach. I don't know how old she's going to be by the end of this Senate term. Janet Mills' age. She is 77 years old. It is so unfair of her to force herself into this race. And by the way, Janet Mills is not bad. I mean, there's a lot of shit she does and has done that does not align with my vision of the United States of America. But objectively speaking, in terms of what she looks like on paper, her favorable's pretty good. People seem pretty happy with her. Democrats in Maine, overwhelmingly supportive. Independents in Maine, not as thrilled. Only 33% of independents have a favorable view of the governor. And Maine seems like, to my layman's eye, the type of state where independents matter and winning them over matters. And someone like Graham Plattner can really make a difference there. But the point is, she's Washington's pick. She's the one that Schumer wanted. And it's just so ridiculous to think that the Democrats are seeing where the tide is kind of moving right now with people like Zohran in New York City, which I know New York City is deep blue, but it speaks to a bigger thing here. And also the popularity of AOC and Bernie around the country. Like, you don't need to run like the most hardcore DSA candidates to win, but you need to be running people who are not corporatist and who are talking to working class Americans about the experience of not knowing how to pay for your groceries right now. And that just doesn't seem like something Janet Mills can speak to. So look, I think two things can be true. I think that the whole this person is too old, get rid of them because they're too old type of thing is a little tired. But also it's like, you want somebody to win a Senate seat when by the end of their term, they will be at or past the actual life expectancy of your regular United States citizen. Like, it's so not cool. And I'm so pissed at so many of the Democrats for getting behind her. Democrats I like too have gotten behind her. She got endorsed by fucking Emily's List. And it's a real disappointment. Biden Volume 2 should have been a message to people like Janet Mills that's, even if you've done good things, even if you've had a strong career and had a meaningful impact, that doesn't mean you need to stay. As a matter of fact, the best thing you can do is lift up the next generation of leaders. And that doesn't mean you need to make a fucking Zoomer your scion and tailor them to follow you up. But that means that people who are going to survive to the end of the decade might be better fit for office because we won't have to worry about them not having their actual fucking marbles together. Let's look at one more person who's kind of killing it right now. This is James Talarico in Texas.
On my first day in office, I put my hand on the Bible and I swore an oath to the Constitution, not the other way around. I'm a Christian, but I know the most dangerous form of government is theocracy. Because the only thing worse than a tyrant is a tyrant who thinks they're on a mission from God. My faith in Jesus leads me to reject Christian nationalism and commit myself to the project of a multiracial, multicultural democracy where we can all freely love God and fully love our neighbors.
I hate hearing politicians talk about their fucking God, but this guy knows what he's doing. Like, it turns out you can do the whole like Jesus thing, and you could do the whole I'm making my religion an inextricable part of who I am while I'm campaigning thing without advocating for us to completely throw away the separation of church and state. Like, this guy's doing it right. I candidly don't really know where the establishment is on Talarico. I know that he is not the only person who is gunning for his seat, and that it's definitely going to be a choice Dems are going to have to make coming up. But I don't know. Talarico seems so savvy and so skilled that I feel like the Democrats are going to go with Colin Allred. Colin Allred's the other like major Democrat that's in this right now. I don't really think that Colin Allred is a terrible choice, but Talarico is a fucking generational talent, and it's like, recognize people like this and uplift them when you get them. Let's go back to Zohran real quick. Zohran is running for mayor of New York City, so naturally every question he's ever been asked by any news outlet ever has been about Hamas, 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 because if there's anything the mayor of New York City can do, it is fight Hamas. That is what your job is as mayor of New York City. Forget the public school system, forget transit, forget emergency response. If you're mayor of New York City, it is your job to single-handedly dismantle the Hamas terror organization. Let's take a look.
What is your response to what Hamas is doing now?
I think those are bodies and remains that should absolutely be returned. And I think that I have no issue with critiquing Hamas or the Israeli government, because my critiques all come from a place of universal human rights. And my focus, however, is right here in New York City and transforming the most expensive city in America into one that's affordable for each and every New Yorker.
But, okay, I want to get to that, absolutely. But do you believe that Hamas should lay down their weapons and leave the leadership in Gaza?
I believe that any future here in New York City is one that we have to make sure that's affordable for all. And as it pertains to Israel and Palestine, that we have to ensure that there is peace. And that is the future that we have to fight for.
But you won't say that Hamas should lay down their arms and give up leadership in Gaza.
I don't really have opinions about the future of Hamas and Israel beyond the question of justice and safety and the fact that anything has to abide by international law. And that applies to Hamas, that applies to the Israeli military, applies to anyone you could ask me about.
Shut the fuck up about Hamas when you're talking to fucking Zohran, okay? If you're a serious journalist who is a serious person, Zohran has nothing to do with Hamas. He has nothing to do with their leadership structure. And that shit has nothing to do with New York. If you're asking someone who's running for mayor of a city questions and they do not pertain directly to the city, you are fucking wasting everybody's time. So Mehdi Hassan had a great tweet about this that I liked, that I wanted to share with you as well. Yeah, Donald Trump pardoned hundreds of domestic terrorists. He just did a deal with Hamas. Donald Trump did a deal with Hamas. How dare he? He praised ex-Al-Qaeda president of Syria. He armed Israel, which has verifiably armed ISIS-linked gangs in Gaza. So maybe you ought to ask Donald Trump how he feels about Hamas, those guys he made a deal with, that fucking terrorist. Last off, I wanted to show Zohran's message directly to Donald Trump. I think that it's really important because we're in an era where a lot of Democrats are being faced with the question of, how am I going to communicate with Trump? Am I going to kiss his ass? If I kiss his ass, is that going to spare my state from any wrath he might unleash upon us? It's a difficult thing. If I was a Democratic leader right now, I would have to give it a real fucking think of like, okay, do I want to be combative with Trump? Do I think that kissing the ring will work? Is there a balance to strike? It seems like Zohran hit the nail on the head here.
You know, I want to take this moment because you spoke about President Trump, and he may be watching right now, and I just want to speak directly to the president, which is that I will not be a mayor like Mayor Adams who will call you to figure out how to stay out of jail. I won't be a disgraced governor like Andrew Cuomo who will call you to ask how to win this election. I can do those things on my own. I will, however, be a mayor who's ready to speak at any time to lower the cost of living. That's the way that I'm going to lead this city. That's the partnership I want to build, not only with Washington, D.C., but anyone across this country. I think it's important because too often the focus on the needs of working class Americans, working class New Yorkers are put to the side as we talk more and more about the very kinds of corrupt politicians like Andrew Cuomo that delivered us into this kind of crisis.
Yeah. So, look, some Democrats are doing a good job right now. Other Democrats can either take notes and try to uplift those people, or they can continue to try to shoot our party in the foot. I suppose that's up to them. Thank you all for watching. I'm Cam from Bulwark. I'll be seeing you soon.